And if you want to make as much money from the game as you can, look at this profit graph, this profit graph, this profit graph. All three are competing against each other. And in this video, I'm going to change your whole perspective and approach to poker to maximize the profit graph that you're going to make throughout the whole year. The whole year. Ow. My results from last Friday, Saturday and Sunday were that on Sunday I made about 1k, but my expected value was I think 2 to 3k on the session. So even though I made 1k, I didn't actually play that well. I didn't give myself good ratings in terms of how I rate my performances to try and improve every session, which I completely recommend anyone to do. Friday, I'm broke even, but the expected value of my session I believe was around minus $500. So on that day, I made $500 more than your average person who's going to go through the same run, who are at the same level as me. I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but I don't think there's too many because I play a lot of poker and study a lot of spots. And on Saturday, I also made around 1k, but my expected value given my standard was in and around $300 to $400. So to sum up the weekend, Saturday, that was my best day because I turned a $300 expected value session into a 1k session. Friday was my second best day, going from minus 500 to 0. And Sunday, I made 1k. Even though most people will be made up with that Sunday, that's the one that I have to improve on most if I want to maximize my own personal profit graph over the year. The way I make the most amount of profit, or try to, is I rate my own performance constantly. I write down loads of stuff as my session goes, strategical tips, exploit tips for my future self. I rate myself emotionally. I rate myself in terms of the variance, how lucky am I getting, and then I roughly try and estimate the value given my skill level of the session and see how I actually did compared to that expected value, which is where I'm getting those numbers from. Now, all you cynics out there will rightly say, these are just my numbers. I can say anything I want. But I don't care to say anything I want. I only care about actually improving and progressing most because at the end of the day, I'm the one who benefits from making more profit. It's therefore in my best interest to build a skill of recognizing how much my expected value is given my skill level, given my performance. And that's just me being honest with you guys on what I thought it was in those days and how I did in relation to that. So why the fuck am I telling anybody about any of this? Why even bother rating this? Poker is a sum-zero game. If you make profit, somebody else loses profit. And if you want to make as much money from the game as you can, you constantly want to maximize your EV. You constantly have to analyze yourself, how you're performing, and how you can perform better to make sure that the next month can look back on the old version of yourself and be like, I want to play against that guy. That guy sucked. And if you keep doing that, you're going to keep making a ton of money. Because any poker player should only care about their long run graph. Who cares if you have one really good day and 3 really bad days, 2 really good months and 8 really bad months? You cannot hide from your yearly winnings. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So maximize that constantly. It's obvious, but your yearly graph is made up of every single session. Sessions that you should have lost 1k, but you actually only lost 200. The sessions that you should have broke even, but you actually lost 500. The sessions that you won 10k and should have won 20k. The difference between your expected value in dollars of the session, given your skill level and how you actually perform, shows how you're actually improving, how quickly you're getting better. And the actual expected value of your session that you calculate shows roughly your skill level at the stakes you're playing. You increase that by basically getting better at predicting your expected value, spotting where you could have made deep runs, how you could have exploited players, etc. And through actually getting way better at the game, getting good mentors and having them teach you all the good stuff that they know that makes them also really good. Because to get the most profit in this graph, you have to know that you're going to have some sessions where you make $50. You sit down for 8 hours and barely make any profit per hour. Many people ask, how can I do that? You sit there all night just to break even. That must be really shit. No, I don't care how much money I make this week, next week. I care what my yearly graph is. And for anyone watching that wants to make as much money playing poker, you have to do the same. Constantly optimize on the day-to-day, getting the actual profit you're making further from the expected value of your session given your skill level. And that's why me and a lot of other top pros are made up with a break-even session. If you know that you should have lost 300 on that day or 500 and you broke even, you're 300 up, and in your long run graph it will show. You cannot hide from your long run yearly graph. Anytime that I don't lose money or save myself money, other people do lose. And anytime I make extra money that I'm not expected to, I gap between the population, I gap between the next best guy, because every single person who plays poker is competing against everyone else who's also playing. And that brings me on to my last tip. Poker is a sum-zero game. If If you get pocket aces all in against pocket kings, and you know that the reverse situation, you would also be all in, that is a sum zero spot. You did not win there, and your short run results won't show that, but your long run graph will. So to make the most long run profits, you have to constantly spot situations and get in games where you are making money and making actions that your opponents are not. If you triple barrel a hand to get value that your opponent doesn't, you are distancing yourself from the population. If you double check raise on the flop and turn where the population doesn't, you found an exploit, a gold nugget, where again you can distance yourself. Again, all that profit will be shown in your long run graph, as long as it gives you positive EV, which is your skill to predict whether it is or not. And that's why as a pro poker player, you can look like a cold hard killer, because you don't care whether you got pocket nines versus pocket tens, button versus cutoff. Everybody's going to do that. But you do care when you trap aces and kings against a guy with king five suited and you got him to triple off and take all of his stack when everybody else would have 4-bet jammed. That is your edge. That's what's going to give you your profit. And you constantly want to fit your strategy around doing things that your opponents won't, which means gaining data about the population, gaining data about yourself and how you're exploiting the population, and being objective and ego-free about how often you're turning up, how often you're studying, how often you're getting better, and whether you're selecting the weakest games you can possibly play and exploiting the hell out of the guys as much as possible in those weak games. You've got to be honest about how good you are. And once you start doing that, your win rate skyrockets. And guess what? You can't hide from the long run graph. It will reward you in holidays, in days out, in bloody, I don't know what people buy, trainers or something. Good luck, because online poker, live poker, 99% of the poker population is there for the taking. And I think with a little bit of guidance and the right mentorship, the vast majority of guys can be significantly better. And who knows, we can have a mega 2025. If you've taken anything from this vid, if anything's interested you, please subscribe to the channel. We're just trying to constantly make things as good as possible, making things better. Any recommendations or any topics you want us to speak about, please tell us in the comments. And until then, go and get them. Oh, I'd like to dedicate this last part of the video to all the people who have added to my long run graph this year. Shout out, I really appreciate it. It's going to a good cause. Stuff like this, delicious, especially in big moments. We love it. Keep it coming for 2025.